The hazard which contributes to the risk is itself evolving. In science, what we call,
Next slide,
yes,
please.
sir.
Whoever's
Yeah, yes,
controlling the
yes,
slides
thank you.
here.
Yeah. Just before, yeah, thank you. So the point I wanted to flag is the risk itself, why it is becoming complex is there is an interaction between one hazard and other hazards. There's a heavy precipitation to the globes, to the hydroelectric dam. So there is an interaction among hazard. As of now, our principle of disaster management has been understand the hazard, understand vulnerability, understand exposure, and then you manage all disaster together. So it was a very linear understanding of hazard, vulnerability, exposure, and risk. But now when hazard itself generates the risk, then it becomes very complicated. The previous one.
Okay.
So with this complexity of the risk, what is the global policy discourse to manage the risk worldwide? In the beginning of what we call the earlier day of Millennium Development Goals, the risk was in a very siloed approach dealt separately. Uh, I think my slide is moving. Please,
Shall I
next
go to the
slide, please.
next slide? Okay.
Next. Yes. Yeah, please. Just before this.
Okay.
Just before this.
Is this okay?
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Huh. So the point I was trying to highlight is it was a siloed approach that highly fragmented. Then it became a coherence. That was the MDG era. Then comes to sustainable development goals where risk was integrated. Climate change brought integration further, and now incoming after the midterm review of Sustainable Development Goals Sendai framework, there is going to be better coherence to manage development, risk, climate change together. So there is a coherence taking place at a global level. So if you come to my next slide, is to tell you the next slide. Yeah, if you see the roadmap of policy coherence at global level and where we reached it SDG Summit 2023, and just now I'm here very close to Dubai, COP28, the coherence has brought down very closely, not by the government, also by the private sector, many stakeholders together, where development, disaster risk, climate change are being dealt in conjunction, and that's the policy transformation worldwide taking place. To what extent this is translating into the action, I think this is the issue of the governance. Many countries have made a lot of progress, including India, in bringing all this together. So if I come to my next slide, this is going to tell you, the next one, please. Yeah, just before this,
Okay.
yeah. So I want to emphasize here that despite all policy coherence, worldwide global effort, there are three key messages which I thought I must share to the audience in this meeting. There was the UNDP report last year in 2022 that came out very clearly on security dimension. The report was very clear that despite all the progress, even before the pandemic, 6 in 7 people, both in low and high income countries, felt insecure despite human development soaring some of the highest level of health, wealth, and education outcomes in the history. Despite all this, the insecurity. Second part came out clearly in the report is when we use human security approach to illuminate development blind spots, it shows how country quest for GDP growth alone is falling short. And finally, human security approach first outlined in UNDP in 1994 Human Development Report is principle which many countries, especially Japan, has been following and championing worldwide. My last slide, the next one, is a key message to the audience and the organizers just before this. Yeah, just four key messages. With the understanding of the complex and potentially systemic hazard stemming from the climate change that we discussed, security with its multi-dimensional attribute needs attention. This is a missing link. Second, security goes beyond preparedness, early warning, anticipatory action, and relies more on the culture of prevention. SDG climate actions provides the pathway. This has to be translated into action in every country and by all the stakeholders. My third point is to IISSM, International Institute of Security and Safety Management, is to build a narrative on security dimension in midst of increasing complex compound and cascading risk scenario. This is the narrative that needs to be built. I thought I must make use of this opportunity to share this message. And finally, a vertical on climate change, disaster risk reduction, and the human security element is a felt need that IISM may consider to discuss at its 33rd annual global conclave. These are few ideas which came from the global experiences. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm really sorry I could not be there in person, but thank you very much for this opportunity. These are some of my thoughts. I thought I must put it across. So
All,
thanks again.
thank you, Dr. Srivastava. Thank you very much. You were short, crisp, very articulate.